The 10th episode of the second series, The Runaway, is based on the story of the same name from the Railway series book, more about Thomas the Tank Engine. This was the second Runaway episode for the second series, but is it as exciting as Old Iron? Let's take a look. One day, Thomas wakes up feeling ill. The workmen are unable to make him feel better, so the Fat Controller has Edward bring Thomas to the works for a while and asks Duck to take over Thomas's duties on his branch line. Duck is delighted to be given such responsibility. Duck is already friends with Percy and quickly befriends Toby, Bertie and Terence the Tractor, who tells Duck to take extra special care with Annie and Clarabelle. Duck is very gentle with them, and both coaches are left very impressed with the Great Western engine and remark what a pleasure it is to go out with him. When Thomas returns from the works, the two coaches tell him how well Duck had managed on the line. Thomas does not feel jealous, as he is just happy to be back home. Although Thomas feels better, he is not in complete working order. The repairs had left his handbrake very stiff, meaning it can feel like his brakes are hard on when they actually are not. Because of this, Thomas begins to overrun the station platform, which causes him a great deal of embarrassment. Eventually, his crew learn to be extra careful with the handbrake and make sure to stop in the right place. When Thomas's fireman falls ill one day, a relief man takes his place. After Thomas arrives at the junction, the new fireman couples him up to Annie and Clarabelle, then joins the driver and station master on the platform while they wait for Henry to deliver his passengers. However, the firemen have forgotten about the stiff handbrake. When Henry starts to approach with his passengers, Thomas's wheels start to move as his brakes are not completely on, and he cannot stop nor whistle a warning without his crew. Before anyone realises what has happened, Thomas has left everyone stranded on the platform and runs off without anyone in his cab. Annie and Clarabelle scream for Thomas to stop, but he has plenty of steam and keeps going. Soon an alarm goes out about the runaway train. An engine inspector makes a plan, boards Howard the helicopter and flies to a station where Thomas is due to pass by. When Thomas reaches the station, he is very tired and is moving far slower than normal, but then he sees Howard landing near the next station. The inspector then makes it to the platform, and when Thomas passes, he scrambles aboard the cab and puts Thomas's brake hard on. Having finally brought Thomas to a stop, both he and the inspector are very relieved and thank Howard, who tells them that it was no problem. The inspector tells Thomas that they must make sure this never happens again. Feeling exhausted, Thomas agrees with him. This was the second story to be based on Christopher Awdry's book, more about Thomas the Tank Engine, and I've always found myself rewatching this episode a lot when I watched it on VHS, whether it be from Percy, Howard and other stories or Chases, Races and Runaways. This is one of those episodes that I would rewatch countless times. And even though the runaway in this episode doesn't last as long as it did in Old Iron, I still enjoy it to a certain degree. The episode also hints that Thomas and Duck might have a bit of a rivalry with each other. Well, I wouldn't exactly say rivalry, it's more like a certain dislikement of each other, since it's hinted that Thomas was jealous of how well Duck had managed with Annie and Clarabelle, and they even showed their on and off relationship throughout the series in the CGI series when Duck was brought back. But for me, the biggest highlight of the episode is seeing Howard the helicopter in action again. This episode pictures him like a hero to the island of Sodor, especially with his theme tune, and I wanted to save talking about his theme tune till this episode, despite it being introduced in Percy and Howard, because we get to hear the full version of it in this episode. It just sounds so heroic and grand. And it might be one of the best themes that Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell have ever composed for the series. It just sounds like the kind of theme that a superhero would have. And the team of the TV series even pictured Howard as a superhero, since in Series 5 they made a music video based on him, which pictured him like a hero to the railway. So we get to see the more heroic side of Howard in this episode. The Runaway might not exactly have the same amount of excitement and thrills as the Old Iron did in their Runaways, but I still love this episode nonetheless. It's one of the many episodes that I rewatched countless times as a kid, and I still look forward to rewatching when I put the DVD on. It's definitely worth checking out if you love the Runaway stories. And you'll get to see Howard the helicopter in action as a superhero. It's definitely worth a watch.